Welcome back to the UFC, bros. Obviously, I've just watched the Jon Jones, Dominick Reyes fight, UFC Fight Night, and there's a lot of furore going on the internet. Even in the official broadcast, straight after the fight, because of the decision going in favour of Jones, and not just the decision going in favour of Jones, with the Chris Lees and Marcos Rosales, two of the judges giving it to Jones 48-47. I don't 100% agree with that, but a 1-point victory to Jones is defensible. But Joe Solis, and this was called out by Dominick Cruz on the broadcast, which I was kind of surprised by, giving the fight 49-46 to Jon Jones. 49-46, meaning that Jones, he's given 4 rounds to Jones, there were no knockdowns. There was no round without a knockdown where Jones, I think, was up 10-8 in that round. In 4-5 were not 10-8 rounds. So he's given rounds 2, 3, 4, 5 to Jon Jones, which, whether you think Jones won, whether you think it should have been a draw, split decision, Reyes on points, just marginally, which is where I sort of sit. Wherever you stand on that, everyone agrees that it was not a 49-46 fight to Jon Jones. So whether it's his methodology for assessing the fight or something more sinister than that, Joe Solis 49-46 is obviously incorrect and really devalues what was otherwise a really interesting fight, especially with Reyes winning clearly rounds 1 and 2. Round 3 is really hard to split. Yes, Reyes did have a few more significant strikes, but how much damage was he landing on Jones? That was when the tide started to shift a bit in Jones' favour, and then Jones took out rounds 4 and 5. So I would have liked to see this fight as a draw or a decision in favour of Reyes. You can see, yes, his significant strike percentage landed is 44% to 62% of Jon Jones, much lower, but he still landed more significant strikes than Jones. He still landed more significant strikes. He still landed more significant strikes to the body and head. A lot of Jones' strikes were to Reyes' legs, which is still effective and caused damage. But regardless, Reyes landed more significant strikes, and he had Jones in trouble at points, backing up onto the cage, covering up. He couldn't really capitalize on them, but I think Reyes really had Jones in trouble a couple of times. Neither of them knocked each other down, and I don't really think Jones was close to knocking Reyes out at all, whereas I was with a fair few people who'd bet big money on Jones, and they were really concerned in the first 2 rounds. I think what often happens in these fights is that there's a recency bias towards better performance in the later rounds than the earlier rounds, and all the rounds are created equally. Round 1 should count for as much as round 5. So Reyes shouldn't get penalised for winning round 1 and 2. And round 3 was fairly even, but I thought it should have gone in favour of Reyes as well. He still had 26 to 19 significant strikes landed compared to Jones, so that's almost 50% more. And I know on the broadcast, Dominick Cruz was talking to Joe Rogan. For once, I agree with Joe Rogan. Dominick Cruz was saying, oh, well, Jones had 2 takedowns. Jones had takedowns. And this can work one of 2 ways. Either you value a takedown, just the act alone of getting a takedown, even if it doesn't result in any top control, because Jones almost had 0 time in control on top of Reyes. Reyes got up from every takedown with relative ease within about 5 seconds. So if you have it that the takedown itself counts as something indicative towards scoring, even if it doesn't result in time and control, then the fact that Reyes stuffed 7 of the 9 takedown attempts and then got out of those 2, he should get credit for that takedown defense as well, and that should go towards the scoring. So I don't know, all the people that say, oh, well, Jones had takedowns. He had no time in control. He only got 2 of the 9 takedowns. Reyes stuffed 7 of those 9 takedowns, and of the 2 where he did get Reyes on his back, he was only there for 2 to 3 seconds at the most. So I don't see where there's some checklist where you can be ticking off that, yet Jon Jones takedowns way better than Dominick Reyes, when Dominick Reyes' defense was fantastic in this fight. I was actually really surprised by Jon Jones' strategy, and if you watch Jack Slack's YouTube channel, well, listen to his podcast, he was talking about he expected Jon Jones to be more defensive, not be the fighter pursuing the other fighter, whereas it was Jon Jones advancing, putting pressure on Reyes the entire fight, advancing, and that kind of, I was surprised because it really seemed in rounds 1 and 2 to work into Reyes' strategy. Reyes is better at slipping and then left countering because his left hand's his main weapon, and that was really effective, and he caught Jones a number of times with left straights, left uppercuts when Jones moved into the left uppercut when he was coming into clinch. And as well, I think it allowed Reyes to rest a little bit. Yes, Jones was advancing, but it wasn't full-on pressure on him all the time. And I think Reyes was able to take 30 to 45 second breaks in a lot of those rounds, which meant he wasn't completely gassed in rounds 4 and 5. And they weren't a complete bloodbath where he got knocked down or knocked out. And going back to what I said about the takedowns as well with Jon Jones, the fact that Jones, yes, when Reyes got up out of those takedowns and he was pinned against the cage and Jones was posting up on him a little bit, how many times can we remember Jones throwing elbows or strikes or heavy strikes when he was head posting on Reyes? It barely happened at all. I haven't watched it again, but Jones, even in the clinch and in the transitions between takedowns and getting back on their feet, didn't really do much damage to Reyes at all, which was surprising, and I think as well should go towards how this fight should have been scored. Unusually, although this is blowing up on Reddit and on the internet and on Twitter, unusually it's not just the internet and fans saying this is BS on the fight broadcast straight after, which was surprising because you don't really see such candid commentary from Rogan. Dominick Cruz called out Joe Solis by name and said he should have his judging scorecard license or whatever it is revoked immediately, which is strong words. But the UFC, Rogan, Cruz, the fighters, pundits, fans, everyone says the scoring is BS and makes the sport look either incompetent or rigged. And UFC's big business now, big money's being bet on these fights. It's one of the most popular sports in the world and it's a legitimate sport. It needs objective, consistent scoring between fights and not having fights where a fighter wins 49-46 when the other fighter landed more significant strikes and significantly more significant strikes in 2 of the rounds. So it's pretty much impossible, given that Jones didn't achieve a knockdown on Reyes, for him to have won 49-46, just mathematically. I was pretty impressed with Dominick Reyes' stamina, to be honest. It wasn't some complete gassing in the 4th and 5th. Yeah, he was getting worked by Jones, but he wasn't that bad. He wasn't full Zabit Magomed Sharipov style. When you see Zabit, when he comes to the 4th and 5th rounds, if his conditioning doesn't improve, it's going to be a lot worse than what we saw from Dominick Reyes against Jon Jones tonight. But we're keen to hear your views on the UFC bros down below. Comment down below what you thought of the scoring. Did you think it was BS? Do you agree with my take? Do you think Jon Jones won by split decision, or should he have won by unanimous decision 48-47 against Reyes? Like the video if you like this breakdown. Subscribe down below if you want to see more UFC related content. We'll keep posting here at UFC Bros. We'll see you later.